Aliens!
Oh, do step in cowboy boy.
No one will understand that. We will watch this back in April and go, why are you doing that at the top of that video?
Just a reminder, Lucy, we just played it in the kitchen.
Yep.
That's why.
Hi everyone, Chris and Lucy here. Sorry,
Hi.
Chris and...
Not Chris.
We're watching Doctor Wham from the beginning. If you're wondering where the first video is, it came out 2.5 years ago, oh, nearly 3 years ago for you lot, and is about William Hartnell's first stories.
What?
But...
It doesn't feel like it's been that long, does
It's
it?
been a long time. By the time this comes out, we will have started it just under 3 years ago.
Whoa.
We're recording this, though, in November of 2020, the year that never was. Martha, where are you? Take us back. But we'll get to that eventually. And we're talking about the next 3 episodes in Series 1. If you're wondering where the video about Rose, the end of the world, and the Unquiet Dead is, go back. Because we're breaking these seasons down into individual chunks.
Because we'd be done in, like, a week otherwise.
Also, it'd be a 7-hour-long video.
Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah. Unlike the classic era where we could kind of break down each serial in a 15 to 20 minute discussion, if we wanted to, we can't really do that with this because there's a lot to talk about.
Exactly.
And this time it's aliens of London and World War III and Dalek. So without further ado, not Chris. What happens in Aliens of London?
There is a spaceship crash.
Aye.
And it goes through Big Ben, it lands on the Thames, and this is essentially Earth's first contact with aliens. So they're trying to... There was a body of an alien taken out of the ship, and all the countries in the world are trying to figure out, you know, what to do about it.
The crack is going on, yeah.
But it turns out that the aliens were here all along.
Yeah. The ship was a hoax. It was a Trojan horse. To get us all looking in one direction.
Yeah, to get everybody that could defeat them in one place.
Yeah, all the experts.
But we'll talk about that in a bit, because that's...
But our B plot, of course, is the Doctor and Rose arrive 12 hours after Rose left in Rose, except they don't.
It's 12 months.
It's been 12 months.
And I really like this, because this is very logical. They've reported Rose as missing because nobody can find her.
Yeah.
Her passport was still in her room. Mickey tried to explain, you know, kind of what happened, but nobody would believe him.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that he murdered her, and it's like, and it never set in when he was talking about what Jackie and the other people in the flats had done to him. Like, they were putting things through his mailbox and everything because they thought that he'd murdered her.
Yeah. It's horrible. Like,
and,
when you really
Rose
think about it,
just swans in like, "Hey, Mom, sorry, I was staying at..."
That's so well done. Was it like Shireen's or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god. And it's this whole thing of like, she doesn't want to explain to Jackie what's going on.
Because she won't believe her.
Yeah, so she's like, why couldn't you just, like, why didn't you call me once to say you're alive? Like, the policeman's there asking him about it. It's like, well, it's, the doctor sort of, it's like, it's my fault. I employed Rose as a travelling companion. He's like, when you say companion, is this a sexual relationship? And they both just go, no! It's like, what the hell? And it's I mean, it's just awkward as sin. Because, like, how do you... Camille Kajuri is great in this. She gets to play the comedy stuff, but, like, the top of this story and later on when she's, like, making a request of the Doctor over the conference call.
Yeah.
Like, Camille Kajuri plays Jackie Tyler.
Nice name.
And she's bloody brilliant. She gets some real heavy lifting.
She's fantastic.
Fantastic. As does Noel Clarke. Like, both Jackie and Mickey are kind of... They're still sort of comedic characters, but in this they get a lot of meaty stuff to deal with. Like, a lot of... Yeah, you're playing someone who's been blamed for a murder for a year. Like, this is uncomfortable to see. And the fact that you know that all of the mates in the flat that have gathered to watch the stuff about the UFO are all clearly neighbours who've harangued and harassed Mickey as well this whole time. So as soon as he shows up, everyone's just like,
You owe someone an apology. And Rose is like, I'm sorry. And one of the neighbours is like, not you.
Yeah.
And meaning Jackie.
Jackie, yeah. But they rekindled their friendship by the end. Like, Jackie, any mistrust Jackie had in Mickey's gone by the end because he saves her life. Like, he protects her twice. So yeah, I mean, Billie Piper again gets a lot to deal with in this one, but I think it's it's mostly Noel Clarke and Camille Kajuri really get to chew through that, and it's so good. We have a great cast in this one. For clarification, for those who are a bit like, how are you doing these two-parters? Because obviously this is the first two-parter we're dealing with, the first multi-part story of the modern era. We are usually going to talk about them...
Ugh!
What?
Ew.
What?
Lovely Guy Lambert bought Christopher a Slovene and a doctor... walkie-talkies. Yeah. I've just noticed their toenails are really long. And they've got a booty.
I thought maybe there was like the pets had like chewed on them or something. But you were just like going, ew, ew. The scary alien's got scary alien features. Ew. Yeah, he's gonna just cheer in the background after the rest of the video.
YMCA.
Sorry. Yeah, we're going to talk about this one as a whole because some two-parters are a bit more distinctly like. Part 1's its own story, Part 2 is its own story, but they're linked by being ongoing.
Yeah.
Whereas this is very much it's one story from start to end of episode 1 and episode 2.
Yeah.
But it also means we get our first official cliffhanger. We didn't really talk about this last week, but the modern era gets cliffhangers every week.
Yeah.
In the form of the pre-credit sequence. The pre-title sequence gives you a cliffhanger. Because unlike, of course, the classic era, it's not an ongoing story told in multiple parts over weeks. So you can do a cliffhanger pre-titles to go, oh, what's the setup? And sometimes it involves the Doctor and the companions, but like other times it's just the place they're going to end up and you learn a little bit about the situation. But of course, this two-parter gives us 2. We get a cliffhanger pre-titles of the reveal she's been gone for 12 months. And then we get a cliffhanger at the end of episode 1. Hey, Doctor Who trope! We're 4 episodes in, and with this batch of 3 episodes, we cover a bunch of the tropes and expected elements of Doctor Who. They come up in these ones, which is kind of cool that they made you wait a few weeks to go, oh, we'll give you that. Oh, we'll give you that. Oh, do you remember these? Okay, moving on. The A-plot. The fake alien invasion. So the craft lands in the Thames, the world's eyes are on it, a body's brought from the ship, and the curiosity gets the better of the Doctor and he goes to investigate it. And it is a genetically engineered puppet, effectively. It is a pig who has been operated on to perform the basic function of appearing to be an extraterrestrial life form. But you can see when the Doctor who gets to look at it, which, we'll talk about its connection later on, but as a character played by a great actor who... She will return in this franchise, like someone from the last episode, in another show, and they will retroactively hint that the character we see her playing in this is the same character, which is kind of brilliant. But the Doctor takes a look at it, and you go, oh, right, this looks like it's been tampered with. Like, it doesn't make sense. She's like, I recognise, the biology and everything. Like, this is a pig. And the Doctor was like, yeah, it was. And it still kind of is. Because it gets shot when it runs away by the soldier who's scared of it. He's like, the soldier's scared of it, but the only reason the pig's running is because it's scared. And I love the fact that the Doctor's revulsion isn't at the soldier for killing it. His revulsion is at whoever did this to a pig. Yeah. Because this pig, did not deserve to have this happen to it. No. And he's not talking about it being shot. Like, obviously he means that too. But it's just like, okay, all right. This is someone who cares about every possible life he can get his hands, any life he comes into contact with, he cares about it. Yeah. I love that. I love the way Eccleston plays it. It's played completely straight. I like the pig pilot. I think the costume and everything, it's a really good piece of work. Let's talk about our other alien stars of this story. So, random MPs from around the country who have no sort of position of power are called in to meet with the Prime Minister, but really the Prime Minister's been missing since that morning, but it's not been announced yet to the world.
Yeah, so somebody, like the closest MP.
Yeah, literally the closest. So many of them are either not in town or unavailable, so the closest, and it's like, backbenchers and heads of estates and things like that. People who are in one of them's the head of sort of sugar distribution and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. the nearest ones are made in charge. And General Asquith is brought in on behalf of the military to be like, right, okay, this is nonsense. You lot are underqualified. Brief me on what's happening. Give me a stead, and if not, I'll put this country under martial law. Like, whatever it takes, because you have no clue what you're doing here. But this is a potential invasion, maybe. Yeah. Even though, this part of the military have never had to deal with that before. Although another military outfit is mentioned later, though not explicitly seen. We just assume that there's some representatives from them. But, yeah. Turns out these MPs are geographically the nearest and the most available because they've been set up to be that way. Everyone else has been killed, dispatched or delayed on purpose so that these guys end up in Downing Street first. Because these are the aliens in disguise. These are namely the Slitheen crime family. This is the beginning, or a continuation really after End of the World, of some brilliantly distinct alien designs in this era. My God, these guys look amazing.
This was a great idea.
They look so good. So, the Slitheen are a crime family from the planet Raxacoricophalopatorius who sell stuff to
they essentially sell land, don't they?
Yeah, or at least in this case, this is their latest caper, that's what they're going to do. They're selling land and fuel. In the form of irradiated planetoid, like rock and tectonic plates and molten core and everything just flying through space.
Bargain!
Yeah. They're here for a long game. They're here to get the world on high alert, get all of the world's experts into one place, in this case Downing Street, on alien invasions. Anyone who could actually sort of figure this out potentially, what's going on.
Yeah.
Kill them all.
Yup.
And then declare that they've learned from the experts that an alien invasion is happening, a mothership is in the stratosphere, here's the proof provided by the experts, honestly, please don't look in that room, they're all saying it's the case, don't look in that room, no one look in that room. And then...
Someone should probably look in that room.
Yeah, the UN will give them the nuclear codes for some nuclear warheads to be fired at the mothership above the UK, but what they're planning is for each individual missile strike to hit a different superpower around the world, so everyone starts to blame everyone else, they blow each other to Kingdom Come, and during it all, other Slitheen, presumably ready to be spread out into the world. We meet all the family here, they're all in one location, but...
It's a family reunion.
The presumption is that they're all scattered. They will scatter after this to help manipulate things even more.
Yeah.
And when the Earth is absolutely buggered, they will sell it on. There's a signal pinging out into space. Because at first the Doctor believes that the signal's like something calling for an invasion fleet, or maybe just another spacecraft. It's a beacon for requesting help after it crashed. But really, no, the Slitheen are about to pull the trigger, get in their spacecraft that is in the Thames, that's been left be.
It's been parked.
Yeah, it's not crashed, it's parked.
It's parked.
And they're going to fly up to the atmosphere, orchestrate things via the phones and whatnot, have everyone kill each other, and then go, right, that chunk's going off to this people, that chunk. It's great. It's a mob plot, essentially. It's racketeering. But it's done through, like, weird fuddy-duddy British politicians who fart and get a giddy joy out of the fact that they stink. Okay, gross. Sure. This one puts off a lot of people because they hate the farting aliens part. I don't care.
I don't care.
I think it's unique because you remember it. You're like, oh, it's weird that they're farting. It's like,
it makes sense though because they're wearing a bodysuit and there's like air trapped.
The gas exchange, yeah, because the thing around their necks and everything is helping them shrink down as much as they can into the suits.
Yeah.
But everything else has to get out somehow.
Exactly.
It comes out
because they're not the same body shape.
And farts.
It's the same body shape as me, but not everybody is the same shape. Oh yeah,
because you have those giant green arms with big claws, don't you?
Yeah,
and you have 3 giant toes.
I am quite sensitive.
And a baby's head.
A baby's head.
A baby's head.
But no, I think it's totally logical. The fact that they play it up, you've got to remember it's aimed at kids.
This show is a kids' show. I will die on that hill. Everything we've watched, even the darker stuff, this show is a kids' show.
Exactly.
That the family watch together. That's what it is.
Even watching it when we were... How old were we? 14?
We would have been 14 when I was there,
When this came out. then I had no interest in politics, so that all that stuff kind of went over my head a little bit. But the fact that the Slovene was farting, and everybody loves a good fart joke. If you don't, you're lying. And that's what makes it funny for the kids.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like, oh my god, they're terrifying because they've gotten themselves into...
That's the thing. I forgive all the farting. I forgive the I'm shaking my booty and all that stuff. I forgive it because it's ultimately disguising the fact that they are killing, gutting,
scooping out,
and then turning the remains of people into a onesie,
into suits that they hang up.
Yeah, that they have put a freaking zip on.
Exactly.
So that they can easily open and close it at will.
And they're doing it to take over the world, and the fact that they're able to do it is terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And they sort of...
That's what's terrifying to adults.
There's also that weird thing of like, well, that person can't be up to no good. They're not going to run away because they've purposefully, for the sake of the gas exchange, the technology only goes so far, they've purposely picked portly individuals, like people with a bigger build, people who are obese, people who are very tall, because then that way they can deal with the compression less, because it's roomier for them to be inside those bodies, which is a great idea.
Get them feet in though.
Which I love that, the bits where you see them trying to rush the skin back.
I know, yeah.
So funny. Which is wonderful, because then the Slovene after this, they've never returned to the show. They've made a cameo appearance, and one makes a cameo appearance. I mean, obviously later in the series we have Margaret return in Blomfeldfoch, but after this series, there's a cameo from one in Attack of the Grask, the interactive short, and there's a cameo of one in the bar in Tennant's last story, where he tips off Jack to Alonso, like you see a Slovene walking past, or a Raxacoricophalopatorian.
Is that the species name?
Raxacoricophalopatorian, yeah. They are Raxacoricophalopatorians.
Raxi.
Corico.
Corico.
Phalopatorian. Raxacoricophalopatorian. Raxacoricophalopatorius. Flurgenbjergen.
Fjörgen Slovene. There you go.
Of the Bjergen
That's
Fjords.
the name.
After this, these guys get repurposed, slightly touched up. The suits get like designed and repainted, and they become recurring villains of the first 2 seasons of the Sarah Jane Adventures.
That's where that baby one comes into.
The baby one's in that, yeah. They are great in Sarah Jane. They work so well because you still kind of have that, you know, the younger audience aspect of the farting characters are a bit bumbling. Obviously, when they're in their disguises, they're a little bit Saturday morning cartoon mustache twirly, which is great, because why not? They're in disguise and they're loving that they're getting away with it. Of course they're smug. Of course they're happy about it. This isn't, we want to replace your entire race. This is, no, these are supervillains who are going to blow the earth up and sell it. Like, play them like stupid supervillains. It makes sense. Their plan is diabolical and they're enjoying every bloody second of what they're doing. But they also, the Sarah Jane Adventures gets to take advantage of the gas exchange thing. Because the second time they appear in that series, they are twist ending, twist reveal, spoiler alert for the Lost Boy finale of Sarah Jane Series 1. Slovene are revealed to be the villains in that story in the cliffhanger of Part 1. And you don't realise that that could be the case, because the bodies that they're in are skinny people.
Wow.
Because by that point, this little group have worked on the technology so that they can disguise themselves for longer in smaller bodies. So they even use like the tropes of the Slovene later to trick you into not realising it's a Slovene story until it's too late. I love them. I love the design. I love the suits. There's a couple of shite shots in this where it's when...
we paused it to get something, didn't we?
It's when our heroes are hiding, but it's when our heroes are hiding and the Margaret Slovene, Blomfeldfoch, is walking around sniffing them out. And she's talking, but in the wide shot, her mouth isn't moving at all. It's just gaping open, like, oh. But then in the close-up, it's the animatronics, this and the other, and you're like, that's weird. And yeah, we spotted when they're walking in, the remaining ones are walking in to like go to the cabinet room. As they're walking away in the back of shot on our 50-inch screen, excuse me, in 2020, we can very clearly see every time they pick their feet up, the boot of the performer in the shoe. And you're like, in the foot, and you're like, oh no, come on, someone must have spotted that.
There's another alien in a Slovene suit.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
It was an undercover time agent who unfortunately gets blown up at the end.
Oh no!
Oh bollocks! We had nearly our first use of the word bollocks in Doctor Who. We're missing out. The suits look great. The CGI ones look pretty cool. Like they're animated really well. Yeah,
that looked really good.
Problem, and I know people are like, oh, it looks awful. It's TV CG budget for 2004 production. It's fine. This isn't The Mandalorian. The problem is they don't move like the suits do, and the suits don't move like the CGI ones do. So it's really jarring. Sarah Jane Adventures removes that problem entirely by never doing the CGI ones and just being more creative with how they shoot the suits when they're running and like lunging at people. So the Sarah Jane Adventures finds ways to shoot the Slovene way better than this story does. We're missing out on a very important character. We're missing out on Penelope Wilton's Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North.
Harriet Jones.
Who makes her first appearance. She's a semi-recurring character, and she makes her first appearance here.
Backbencher.
She's just a humble backbencher, and she's trying to sort of cover the cost of the smaller localised hospitals in Flydale North, and she's sticking around because she's been dying to get this meeting for the longest time with the Prime Minister, and she's unable to. She sticks around as long as she can, and as soon as she notices that there's something adrift, she sticks around longer to read the protocols for potential alien intrusion and witnesses the murder of General Asquith.
Mm-hmm.
And she keeps having to clash with the secretary, he's brilliant. Mm-hmm. He's great as well. So his death at the end of episode 1 is pretty horrible. All the stuff that rocks. The cliffhanger's great.
Yeah.
The room of experts, including Unit, who after the Doctor is mentioned in a call by Jackie to security, Unit and their database identify the key phrases and go and pick up the Doctor. Now, we never meet anyone specifically from Unit.
Yeah.
But there's obviously at least a Unit representative in that room, apparently. So we get another nice little tiny bit of continuity. Rose is like, why don't you just talk to me? He's like, I've changed a lot since they last saw me. And of course, she doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
She's not like, what? They don't linger on it, it just moves on. But I love when they arrive to pick him up.
He's been arrested.
Yeah. It's really tragic that Mickey legs it, because you're just like, God, that's really depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, for plot reasons, it's so he can be there for Jackie later in the episode. But it's like, God, that's really depressing that Mickey's immediate instinct is to run.
Well, he's been questioned by the police so many times.
Yeah. We were talking about that while we were watching it, like, I've got the script book. Mickey is not described or specifically written as a black character, but the casting of Noel Clarke makes the way the authorities treat him, or the way he behaves around the authorities in this story, and the way the neighbours treat him, like, as a suspect, really upsetting.
Yeah.
Like, it adds this extra layer of, oh God, that's horrible. And depressingly prevalent, and it's just like, good Lord. But yeah, so the experts are in a room, Celine reveal themselves, as the Doctor just quite openly is like, deducing what's going on, that this is all a distraction. Everyone gets electrocuted by their lanyards. Jackie and Mickey are, Jackie's attacked by a, what do you call it? By a police officer. I can't remember that actor's name, but he's in so many things and he's always really bloody good.
He's in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Who's been sent,
well done.
Yeah, who's been sent to close it down because, like, she's the one who gave the information about the Doctor, so they get rid of all these ends.
Is it well done?
I can't remember now. I don't know. He's good. He's a good egg. And then, what's the other cliffhanger? Rose and Harriet Jones seeing the secretary getting ripped to pieces by Margaret. Really horrible. The cabinet room stuff's great. The standoff with the Slovene in part 2, I love. The whole tripling the flammability of the alcohol will go up and everything. And as he's trying to deduce stuff, like one of them just goes, what did you say your device was going to do? Triplicate the flammability, yes. You're making it up. Oh well. That stuff's great.
And the idea that the cabinet room sorry, has a protection shield.
Yeah, 3 inches of like hard steel and stuff lining the whole thing, and it's like no one can get through those doors. Yeah, but how do we get out?
And do you know what I really?
Eccleston digs at himself in his book at panels for his comedy. He thinks the way he handled comedic delivery in the series was awful.
No.
I think he's great. He thinks he went too far. I think it's just spot on.
Yeah, it is.
It's perfect.
He's
overcritical because he's never done enough family stuff, and he's overanalyzing himself way too much. He's pitch perfect.
He is a wonderful actor. He really is. I mean, what was it called? Second Coming.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Mind blowing. He's amazing in that. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
But yeah, the fact that Rose is only 19, but she goes into like, right, we need to sort this out mode. Like she empties out the under the stairs cupboard for them to hide in for when the missile eventually
she's like, it's a small space, so it's braced arch, and they don't
the sturdiest part of the house.
They don't expect to definitely survive, but she's the one who's like,
she's
right,
like,
we're giving it a shot.
We're giving it a shot.
Let's go. Yeah.
And I really
when they fart, if you'll pardon the expression, they don't just smell like a fart. If you'll pardon the expression.
That's my favourite. That's my favourite sequence of when they're shouting things at him and he's going, narrows it down.
Yeah, because he knows.
Narrows it down.
Because he knows that Jackie and Mickey are going to die if they don't figure out something about the alien that they can use.
Yeah.
And yeah, when Rose and Harriet are just firing things they've seen it do,
and he's concentrating so hard.
Yeah.
I just think, even though we've seen it, I don't even know how many times, it's still on the edge of your seat moment, and I really love that.
Intercut so well with like them under attack from the Celine the Flat, who at first just drags one claw, like hacks one claw through the door, so it's just that long line.
That's scary. They've got big claws.
They're big, scary boys.
How do you get them suits on without piercing it?
Well, that's kind of the charm. You've got to suspend your disbelief. It is a science fiction show after all. But yeah, I love the look of them. I love this story a lot. Politics since has become even more ridiculous than this. But like,
yeah, but you know what's really scary about it?
Go on.
The fact that everybody believed them, and that everybody got on the side, and the EU gave them.
The UN.
Sorry, the UN gave them the codes, nuclear codes, and it's like, oh my god, that's horrifying.
Everyone's got a trigger finger. They're all worried, and it's all because one thing falls into the Thames, and suddenly everyone's like, "Oh god, we have to defend ourselves!"
Like they've lied. They've pulled the sheepskin over their eyes. Is that a phrase?
No, pulled the wool over people's
eyes. Wow,
I got morbid.
I know. I was going to say that doesn't sound right. That sounds horrid. Anyway,
they've kicked a pigskin around.
They've kicked a pig around.
They've rounded up the cows. All the farm animals are getting screwed over.
And the fact that, like, the whole world has gone, okay, we don't need any proof, we're just going to do it. We have
all the experts have said that it's true, so we believe them. I mean, don't go in that room. Don't check in that room, anyone.
I mean, all these MPs that have got nothing to do with anything, and they're all commenting on how strange it is, are going into the, I said the White House then, into Downing Street. And they're just like, yeah, okay, here's the codes, do what you need to do. And it's
you just know as well that in America people are like stocking up on guns.
Exactly, getting to the
bunkers. Like, Martian's not going to get me! And just like, oh my god. Yeah.
I just think that's
also
really
the first appearance of Trinity Wells, not yet named, but the American newscaster who will recur repeatedly in this show and the spin-offs for the entire Russell T Davies era of the show.
Having grown up now, getting more into politics, both UK and US, it's quite horrifying because you can think, I can see that happening.
Yeah,
I can see that happening. That's horrifying.
I don't like it. Not one jot.
Not one bit.
But what about Aliens of London World War III? Did you like that?
Yeah.
My favourite bit, funnily enough, is the ending because it's so sad. The very last bit. I mean, we found out that Harriet Jones is Prime Minister. It's like, oh yay! And we're talking about this from the perspective of not talking about the rest, but obviously with hindsight, that's like actually quite, oh no, the way it goes.
Yeah.
And then she gets to redeem herself. And then the poetry book reveals that she's still alive. But anyway, the ending is super, super sad. Because Jackie's like, you can't
Please don't
guarantee you're going to come home again. She's like, look, the reason I'm not so hurt about everything is because I've only been gone a few days. To me, that's all it's been. I could be back in 10 seconds. I'll see. And she's like, Rose gives her mum such a big love, and she's like, I'll see you in 10 seconds. And off they materialise. And then they don't reappear. Jackie even checks her watch. And she just goes back to the flat, dejected, and you're like, oh my god. But then Mickey waits a bit longer. Just in case. Also the fact that the Doctor invites Mickey. Mm-hmm. Like, he's bullying him like crazy because he's the annoying, weird boyfriend. Ricky. You keep calling him Ricky, and then he calls him Mickey at the end.
In the important bits, he calls him Mickey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we didn't even mention that Mickey's the reason that everybody's okay.
Yeah.
Because he's a hacker.
Because, again, carrying on with the theme that the Doctor doesn't really sort of pull the trigger and save the day, really. He gives other people the facilities. Mickey saves the day. Mm-hmm. Mickey saves the day in this story. Downing Street gets blown up, but, Mickey saves the day.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
Needs must.
That's dark. They'll be investigating us. If between now and when this video comes out, comes to Downing Street, they'll be investigating us.
There's been loads of jokes about Bonfire Night. Guy Fawkes.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, that's Houses of Parliament, not Downing Street.
Yeah, I know, but people were making the joke about...
True. It'd make for an interesting shift on BBC Parliament, wouldn't it? And I ask Mr. Speaker in the room. What's that? What's that ticking noise?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So that, but also the fact that the Doctor offers Mickey a position on the ship. He's like, "Come with us." And Mickey's just he's not ready for that. Mm-hmm. He can't do it. But he also is like, "Don't tell her I said no." So when Rose is like, "Come with us," like Mickey sort of looks over to him and he's like, "Nope, he's not allowed. That's my final word." And all this, and he's just sort of like, "Oh, he'll get his chance next year." I really enjoy this two-parter. I really, really do. It's not the strongest of this era. It's not the strongest this series. Out of the 3 two-parters, it's my least favourite. But I have so much fun with Alien to London and World War III. From fun to, oh my god, everything's depressing, we're really sad now. But what good television. The TARDIS arrives in Utah, underground, in the year 2012. The far-off future of 2012. Arriving in the collection, the museum, the research station of Henry Van Staten, multi-billionaire, current owner of the internet.
Yeah.
Runs pharmaceutical companies where they are slowly eking out alien technology and medicine in the most profitable way imaginable. They found the cure for the common cold, but instead of turning it into one thing and giving it to the world, they're dishing it out as several small dose medicines.
Charging a fortune.
Yeah, and not letting on to the fact that they have the cure. And it's like, oh, you bastard. But amongst this stuff is an alien museum because
that made me really hate him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even though in my head I was going, it's not real, it's not real.
It's not real, but
God, I hate him.
But again, knowing more about the world and American affairs and stuff, you know about Big Pharma now, and you didn't when you first watched this, and I certainly didn't, and now I'm like, yeah, that's really freaking annoying.
Wow,
but I believe
these people
that
actually
would do
exist.
It.
Wow. You're the scum of the earth.
His fortune is in finding, acquiring, and dissecting alien technology and using its advances to make business for himself, but without ever revealing to the world what it is. That's why it's in a giant secret base.
Yeah.
He's a Bond villain without being a moo-ha-ha villain. He's sort of like in a Bond movie, he's the bad guy who the big bad guy is financing.
Yeah.
While they secretly do something else that's going to overtake them all. I can't remember the actor now. It's Corey something, but he's bloody brilliant. Yes. He's one of those actors who's just in a lot of stuff. He pops up all over the place. We know him, I think, primarily from The Mummy, from Kick-Ass. He's just one of those actors who he shows up and you go, oh, that guy! I think that's the best way to describe him.
Yeah.
This is the only time I've seen him in something where he's been a central role, and he's bloody great. As is his assistant, she's just the right level of cold and detached and everything, and also you've got oh my god, I'm having a moment. Actor's name.
I'm terrible with names, so
it'll come to me. But the guy who plays Adam.
He was on Corrie, is it?
Yeah, it was. Emphasis on was. Don't harass people in nightclubs, because that's not nice, but also you won't keep your job. Hey!
You have no right
Bruno
to judge
Langley.
people.
He's very good in this, although as Salfordians ourselves... Actually, are you Salfordian or Mancunian?
I don't know.
Where were you born? Royal?
No. Ah! Yeah, what was it called? Salford?
Salford Royal. It used to be called Hope Hospital for...
Hope
it was
Hospital.
Salford Royal,
Yeah.
then it was Hope Hospital, now it's Salford Royal.
Yeah.
Right, so you're a Salfordian.
I'm Salfordian. Yeah.
Okay, so as two Salfordians, we have to say, mate, why do you keep going posh on some words?
Wow.
What's wrong with you? Go canoodle or spoon.
Lots of planets have a north, so you know.
He's got research. Van Statten's got researchers and boy geniuses and all this people spending his money to acquire alien artifacts. The Doctor and Rose arrive in the museum. We see a stuffed Slovene arm, so something was obviously found from the wreckage of Downing Street and acquired by these guys. And here it is. Aliens in London takes place in 2006, so here it is 6 years later, stuffed and mounted in a case. There's various bits and pieces. There's a freaking alien egg in the far background.
Yeah, I would never have spotted that if you hadn't.
I just paused it. I was like, that's an alien egg. You can see it's got the little, like, the lips and the creases in the top. Oh my god. But, of course, we focus on our first direct bit of fan service of the modern era. A Cyberman head. Specifically, like, circa the invasion kind of era.
Yeah.
Which would make sense, because that was the first time they were on Earth. And the Doctor's just sort of looking at it, and he's like, this is weird. Like, this thing is, the stuff of nightmares reduced to an exhibit. That's so strange.
That's crazy.
Right, we need to get out of here. Maybe this isn't the best decision. Because in the wide shot, like the map painting shot and everything, you see sort of like, looks like the Iron Giant. And there's like a spherical spaceship, which for years people were going, it's a Sontaran ship! It's like, it's not. Sontaran ships don't have all those bits stuck to it.
It's Aquila!
Aquila. So many viewers going, what?
Look it up, it was great. Anyway,
Van Statten's men find him. They think that it's a breach in security. They understand the Doctor's alien knowledge when he faffs around with a piece of tech that he reveals to be an instrument and shows them how to play it. And then he's like, right.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That they automatically think things are weapons.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not everything is a weapon.
And then the way Van Statten sort of gets around to playing it, you have that moment of connection, and he's like, incredible. And then he just throws
it, and it's like, oh!
Because as far as he's concerned, useless.
It's useless.
Can't do anything with that.
Nobody will buy that.
Yeah, we bought it for like, I think Adam says he bought it like for $800,000 at auction. And he's just like, yep, just throw it away. He entrusts the Doctor to witness his one living specimen, which they acquired in a crater that hadn't really given them anything other than screams when electrocuted.
That's horrible.
That's the only communication they managed to make with it. So the Doctor sent it to take a look at the Metaltron, because Van Statten is nothing if not tacky. And
great name.
The Doctor recognises it instantly. What happens next? Sweet lady.
The Dalek speaks.
Because it's a freaking Dalek!
Oh yeah, sorry. It reveals he's a Dalek.
we never would have known that were it not for the title of the episode being Dalek. But yeah. But the title is what the title is on purpose. It's Dalek. This is a story about a singular Dalek, which is the first time we've had this. We've never had a story where it's just about one, and only one's going to feature. But that's what's bloody going on. What occurs? What do we learn?
We learned that that this Dalek essentially kind of crash landed there.
Flung through time and space.
From the war.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he is the only Dalek left. So he was sat there waiting for orders that were never going to come.
But why is it the only Dalek? What do we learn in this conversation? For the first time, canonically, in the show, what do we find out?
We learned that there was a Time War, and the Time Lords...
we knew about the Time War, we knew the Time
Lords,
but now we've learned who the opponent was.
Yeah, if you let me flipping finish. Good grief. The Time Lords and the Daleks, dragging everybody else into this war, essentially obliterated each other.
No, they didn't. Someone did. We learn it in this scene. I watched it happen. I made it happen.
Which is horrifying.
The Doctor pulled the trigger. The reason the Time Lords are dead, and as we now know, the reason the Daleks. So it turns out, of course, it's the Daleks.
Of course.
The Time War, a force so big that the Time Lords actually got off their arse and fought. Of course, it's the Daleks. We learnt that not only are the Doctor and this Dalek the last of their kind, the only survivors, but the Doctor was the one who ended the war.
That's crazy.
That's nuts, because what we know of him, what we know, having journeyed these last couple of years, like taking this journey and spending time with the Doctor, you never in a million years would imagine he'd be that person.
See,
when presented with the option to kill the room full of mutated specimens that would become the Daleks, he couldn't do it. Because it makes him no better than them. What the hell must the Time War have been like for him to make this decision?
See, I didn't take that literally. I didn't...
What, the Genesis thing? Or
no, the fact that he pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
I knew that he was obviously a main part of it, and he was a big component, but it never dawned on me that it was him that caused everybody to die.
He killed everyone.
How did he do it, though?
Well, stuff's fed to us over the years, but we become aware of there being a moment, and then that is sort of referred to in older stuff and newer stuff as a piece of technology. In the 50th, we kind of learn the circumstances, but the 50th changes the outcome.
It confuses me.
Well, if you take the 50th anniversary as completely strictly canon to the timeline, the incarnation he was in at that point, the John Hurt incarnation, uses an ancient weapon called the Moment.
Which is that box.
Yeah, to effectively wipe both races out of existence. And by cruel twist of fate, he survives.
So is it kind
left to deal with it all? But in the canon of the TV movie, in the canon of the TV anniversary special.
You okay with it?
Nope, I'm having a stroke. The anniversary special, that doesn't happen. They trap Gallifrey in a single moment. The Daleks kill themselves in the crossfire, which would explain why some do clearly survive, because that would not eradicate all of them. So that's why... And on regeneration, it's that whole thing of, like, you forget the adventure you've had with other incarnations, because then that way the timeline's preserved for when you inevitably see the adventure from the other side of the... Yeah. Do you remember how the 11th Doctor at the start of that one, when the Fez comes through the portal or whatever, he's like, oh, here's where I come in, because he starts to remember, hang on, I show up now. Because
doesn't he make himself forget that he isn't the reason he didn't.
Well, no. Well, that's the thing. Multi-Doctor adventures imply that after each adventure, the younger incarnations don't remember those encounters to preserve the timeline.
Right.
So the way Day of the Doctor changes it is that after regenerating, presumably the new incarnation of the Doctor, the Eccleston incarnation, the last thing he remembers is bringing the Moment to the barn to execute both sides of the conflict.
Yeah.
And now there is no Gallifrey, and the Daleks are gone.
So,
I call bullshit. The 50th anniversary changes that. It changes it to that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the weight of this series is nowhere near as weighty as it should be.
Yeah.
And also, that's the whole point of that, is that the 10th and 11th Doctors go, no, we're going to change it. We're going to make this... We're going to affect time. We're going to change it all completely. So... Because otherwise the 11th would know that that's what's happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So...
So is it? It's kind of a Voldemort, Harry Potter, both... one can't survive while the other one lives kind of thing.
What do you mean?
With the Daleks and the Time Lords.
No.
So why does he kill them both then?
Because the conflict was raging and stretching out into the universe. We've learned in the earlier episodes of this series about how different species were being pulled in. Like the Gelth's homeworld was destroyed.
Yeah.
The Nestine's protein planets, like what it lived from, is gone. Like there's all these hints that something has been taking out
parts of the universe, and these aliens, these races have been desperately, or monstrously trying to find somewhere new to live.
Yeah.
As this series goes on into the Tennant era, you learn more about what the hell went on, but never the specifics. And then, in Tennant's finale, you learn what the Time Lord's plan was on the day that the Doctor changed everything and killed everyone. Their plan, the High Council anyway, was to initiate the final sanction, which was to basically wipe out the universe as a whole, and they would ascend as consciousness alone and essentially just exist as a non-corporeal intelligence in an infinite universe of nothing.
What?
Because Razalon did not want to die, and this was the only way out as far as he was concerned.
Oh, bloody Razalon.
Yeah, because he misses his people, but by the end of this era, like the 10th Doctor, 9th Doctor era, you learn that like he made the call he did because the other option was the Time Lords doing something even worse. Doesn't make what the Doctor's war guilt or, guilt over a double genocide any less significant.
Yeah. And
in this moment, we see him confront this Dalek, gloat about how helpless it is.
Because the reason that they appeared where they did was because because the Doctor found the distress signal that the Dalek was putting out.
Yeah, that's why they got there.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, help me, poor little thing. And he's like proper mocking it when he realises it can't shoot it, because at first he's petrified. Rob Shearman, the writer of this, adapting it from a Big Finish story called Jubilee, and Russell T Davies and the team, they worked together to make it so that this story fully establishes to someone who's never seen a Doctor Who story why the Daleks are a threat and why they are not to be joked about, why they are to be taken seriously. And they use one Dalek to do it. The Doctor's reaction to seeing that he's in a room with one immediately sells that there's something horrifying about this creature.
Definitely.
The fact that he's willing to kill it and tries to do so is like, wait, he wouldn't do that. What the hell's he doing? This must be serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the episode is a testament to how deceptive they can be and how destructive they can be. One Dalek kills nearly every piece of military personnel and destroys every piece of military hardware in the base. The Doctor makes the point, say, nearest town, Salt Lake City, population 1 million, all dead. Like, he makes the whole point of, like, within a week, this planet will have no defences left.
All because of
within
one
a
Dalek.
month, everyone on this planet will be dead.
That's scary.
Because this thing has powered itself back. Because it uses Rose's sympathy to get her to touch, she touches the dome. Like, she's Rose is brilliant. She's empathetic. She's so, like, kind and open to everyone, except her mum and her boyfriend, which is part of her human fault. She doesn't realise how much of a selfish dick she is being around them. Because she's 19 and impulsive. But when she's on these journeys, she connects with people. She's open. She never immediately is like, oh my god, what is that?
And she doesn't know what a Dalek is.
Yeah.
So she has no idea that
She's
it's
got no clue.
a killer
machine.
tank.
Yeah. She touches the dome, and the Dalek basically like uses the surface level DNA on her skin, specifically like the time vortex energy and everything, to regenerate.
Yeah,
This is the first time the modern series uses the word regenerate, and it's in relation to the Dalek using time vortex energy to buff itself back up. Its ray gun works again. Things they do in this to make you go, don't joke. The first kill is a sucker crushing someone's face.
Well, yeah, because the guy goes, what are you going to do? Sucker me to death?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, it's horrible. Like...
That guy kind of deserved it, though, didn't he?
Yeah, because he's torturing it, and he's enjoying it. Yeah. Its middle revolves, so when it's in a small corridor, it's not having to faff around to turn around and shoot people that are coming up behind it. Its middle just spins around and it, like, opens fire.
Now, CG doesn't look great, but that looked good.
Oh, the shot looks damn fine.
Yeah.
They never really did it to any of the toys, except for a couple of the early... Oh, come here, you! A couple of the earlier remote control ones. This is a Dalek from one of the Emperor's Guards from the finale. Spoiler alert! And the middle of this turns around. So it's a bit stiff, but yeah. They never really did it with other toys, which is a shame, because I love that superpower for them. I think it's great. The fact they could just go, whoop, pew, woo, and then turn back.
It makes sense. It makes total
I think
sense.
the last time we saw it's Waters of Mars, because it's a CG one and they can do whatever they want with it. They have it fly upstairs, which to us,
Elevate.
to us, we're like, of course. But to a lot of people, this being their first proper Dalek story, or them having not seen Remembrance of the Daleks, was like, wait, what? They can do that? So it was, because I remember at the time everyone was like, oh, they can fly! It's like, they already could, but sure. The sass in that moment as well, where it's just staring at the soldier, she's like giving it its marching orders, and it's just staring at her, and then just starts to hover.
Do you know what it made me think of? When you tell a cat not to do something,
Yes,
it'll sit there.
Where they push a swat off a shelf.
It'll sit there and stare at you whilst you talk about it, and then do it anyway.
Little bastard.
That's what it just. So to me, it was kind of cute that it was just sat there staring at her, and then just did it anyway. Which I thought was quite funny, but obviously very horrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
We have so many Daleks in this house.
We do. I keep selling them. I keep chucking some on eBay every now and again when we're strapped for cash, and I still turn around and I'm like, yeah, there's more.
We have a Dalek in the bathroom.
Series 4 Dalek Supreme Bubble Bath.
Is it still got bubble bath in it?
Yes.
No, it's probably toxic now. It's probably toxic.
No, that was End of the World. Anyway, the severity of the situation is ramped up so much by the Doctor, but I mean, Christ, the bit where he thinks he's lost Rose.
Yeah.
Horrifying. The bit where it kills the room full of soldiers by like busting the sprinkler system and then electrocuting the water that they're all stood on to fry them to death. Like the way that it's got a minor shield. If you concentrate your fire, you might be able to get through it.
Like the ice storm.
But none of the soldiers pay attention to that. They just open fire, and we see the bullets.
Neither advice on how to kill a robot.
I think I can kill one tin robot, Doctor. But like we see the bullets in the corridor scene, like just disappear an inch away from it because the shield's just going, gone, bye.
Disintegrated.
Yeah.
Lost it.
And he keeps making a point of like it's not a robot. It is a horrible creature in a weapon. And it will kill you all with this weapon. There's that brilliant thing. He's like, where did it come from? He's like, created by. He sort of describes it as like they were created by a madman who's king of his own little world. You'd like him. This is to Van Staten. And again, just a bit of subtle continuity, a little bit of subtle fan service. Not going into it, proving that you don't need to know about that.
Yeah. The
threat is this one thing, and if we don't focus on it, we're all dead.
I'm not gonna lie, in my head I was like, yeah, I know this.
I know who that be.
Devru.
I know who it be.
Devru.
Dave Ross. Bob Ross. These Daleks have a happy little accident. Just put a little paintbrush in his withered hand. So give him a beard and an afro. Oh, come on. Someone's got to Photoshop that. Anyway. It culminates in the Doctor. Well, the Dalek starts to behave differently. It can't kill Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to freak out that it's reluctant to kill her, but also like has a different calling. We find out by the end of the episode that all it wants, when it realises no orders are coming, is to feel the sunlight on its flesh, because that's what Rose wants.
Oh.
Like she doesn't think she's ever going to see the sun again because she's going to die in this bunker. So the Dalek has been it's not only been infused with the vortex sort of, atoms and whatnot. It's taken a bit of her DNA as well. It just wants to see another day, and then because it has nothing left, kill itself. Yeah.
I'm not going to sing, don't worry.
I can't sing. I can dance. I'm not going to dance.
I can't dance. If you know what that is, I'm very impressed.
Well done.
On YouTube.
How very rhombus of you. So, but the Doctor also is going to kill it. Like, Adam shows him the weapons. It's like, what is it? He's like, nope, hairdryer.
Yeah.
And then he picks
broken.
Hairdryer. Locked and loaded, and he picks up this massive bloody gun, and he goes to kill the Dalek. After it arrives at the upper level, shoots the ceiling, and just opens its casing in a way that we've never seen before, and looks brilliant. Because this is the first we've seen of this version of the Dalek. This is, I would argue now, this is the definitive look for the Daleks.
Yeah.
In 15 plus years of the show being back on air, it's the unshakable design. It'd be nice to see them try some different colour schemes, but it works. Like, you believe that this is a death machine, and in this story, they let you, in a glorious moment, see the death machine open up and see what's inside. I love this design of the mutant. I love it. The classic series differs, doesn't it? Depends on which story and which team are making it. Sometimes it's a green claw the size of a hand. Sometimes it's a kidney with some stringy bits. Like, I mean, Revelation of the Daleks is the best one for my money, where it's like they're using people and you see the guy's face in the middle of the mutant, and it's just so horrible.
That's horrid.
But this is wonderful. It feels the sun, and it asks Rose for its orders. It wants to die. Because what's left? And similarly, what's left of the Doctor? Who the hell are you, like, turning into? And it's true, like, he sort of realises what is the rage about this thing? What is the rage over this thing, and what happened turned him into? And you get a sense this is who he was before he met Rose.
Yeah.
So it ends in an unshaky kind of bit, like at the Emery's, like, it's over, I win. And it's the most sort of, like, defeated, sarcastic, like, I win ever. It's the last Dalek. They're going to fill the base with concrete. Van Statten's going to do time for his crimes, and then, not because he's a bit pretty, but because he's kind of got nowhere to go, and Rose can clearly see some of herself in him. They kind of let Adam wander on board as the TARDIS.
Because he said he's always wanted to see the stars. And stuff, yeah.
As the TARDIS disappears onto another adventure with a new crew member and an old enemy, defeated forever, never going to come back, ever, ever. This is it. Only Daleks, only ever Dalek story in the modern era.
The last time we see the Daleks.
So, Dalek, I freaking love it.
Yeah.
It is one of my favourite Dalek stories.
Yeah, samesies.
It is surpassed in the modern era for me only by one other Dalek story, which coincidentally we'll talk about in a couple of episodes' time.
I wonder what that is.
You've had a big on-off relationship with the Daleks. You enjoyed them in the early stuff in our marathon. You grew to hate them and be bored by them, and then when the different writers took over in the 5th, 6th, 7th Doctor's era and started to play with them, you enjoyed them more because they were just part of a story that was better.
Yeah.
But when we did our 30 Years in the TARDIS episode, you made it quite clear that you don't really love them. And it's mostly because of how much Terry Nation formula you had to endure.
Yeah.
Without saying too much about your feelings of them in this modern era, which you have seen, does this put them back on the right path for you, this story?
Definitely heading in the right direction. I mean, I can't help it, but this is obviously changing my opinion of the Daleks. I liked the Daleks, but I didn't think they were all that, because everybody goes on about them. Don't get me wrong, they look friggin' amazing. I mean, it's beautiful.
As far as like a redesign goes, it's great.
Exactly.
It feels like a solid machine.
Yeah.
Like we love them twitching and twerking and wiggling around while they talk, but these ones don't do that.
No, exactly.
And every movement makes a mechanical or an electronic noise. Like the dome, just every movement of the dome, that sound is there.
I do think they're definitely creepier in the modern series.
The Gold Boys.
And I don't think they overuse them as much. I mean,
there is an issue.
I do think they're overused, but that's because they had to.
Well, allegedly.
To keep the...
Allegedly. That's never been confirmed, but it's pretty bloody obvious that Terry Nation State... Because this story was not... The story was going to be about a Dalek, and then in pre-production was not going to be about a Dalek. It was going to be an adaptation of Jubilee about an alien that effectively gets redesigned and reused 2 series from now. We'll talk about them when we get to them. But then they got the rights from the Terry Nation estate to use the Daleks again in the show, and they have appeared in every every year since the revival, they have either appeared in a story or in a prominent piece of media tied into the show.
Yeah.
Which fuels the rumour that the Terry Nation estate will take them back if the BBC does not use them at least once a year.
What are they going to do with it, though?
Oh, you kidding me? Think about how much Doctor Who merchandise out there right now is Dalek heavy. I mean, even the B&M sets, every year, there's like 5 Dalek sets.
I know, but if say...
All they've got to do is team up with a different merchandise company and just start putting Daleks about.
If they aren't part of the Doctor Who brand anymore, they can't advertise as Doctor Who's Daleks, can it?
No, but they're also bigger than the show, arguably.
See, I don't think they are.
Back in the 1960s, like, these guys were huge.
No, definitely. But I mean, like, now, if it didn't say Doctor Who on it, I don't think it would
the Nation Estate, based on who makes the decisions for projects, they would sell them to a movie studio and do a film about Dalek. They'd do something. And it would make cash. It's the Sony Spider-Man thing. Like,
I don't think...
they would find a way.
But it wouldn't make sense without the Doctor.
You say that, but Sony made Venom.
And that didn't make sense
and
without
Morbius. No, exactly, it didn't. The appeal was gone, but they still did it, and it made money, and that's what happened.
That's. I'm not saying that they couldn't do it. I'm just saying it would be weird
as a connoisseur of their content. You find it strange that they wouldn't belong. But again, remember, what were the 2 Cushing movies? They weren't Doctor Who movies. They were Dalek movies.
Yeah, but it still had the Doctor in it.
Used the idea of the Doctor as a character to tell the story with, but. They could have easily... I mean, hell, does he have to be Doctor Who in those films? He's not. He's a granddad on Earth with a time machine in his garden.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the Doctor. But it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. It's an odd one. All I know is I'm thankful they worked it out for the modern series for this episode at the very least, because, like, the weight of it is so much more as a piece of legacy of the show to find out that the Time Lord's enemies that nearly ended everything, and who the Doctor was willing to pull the trigger on, were the biggest threat that the show has had in its legacy.
Yeah.
So much so that even watching this as a newbie, you're aware of the Daleks just through cultural osmosis.
Yeah.
So you know they're a big deal. It's like someone who's never seen Star Wars, but they recognise stormtroopers. They recognise them because it's such an iconic visual in the pop cultural lexicon that if they see them, they're like, oh, they're the bad guys. Same with the Daleks, so it makes sense that they got it to work out the way they did. I love these stories. I love the series. I'm a bit biased, but I really love these stories.
Have you seen it before?
A few times, yeah. There's a playlist on screen in a moment for 9 is 10. If you want to check out my thoughts on this series in depth with commentaries with a load of guests, including bonus episodes, check that out. It's also available on SoundCloud if you want to download it and have an audio version in your ear holes. Ear holes. And it's also interesting that this video we're talking about a Slitheen story, a Slitheen 2-parter and a Dalek story. And in 2 videos' time we're going to be talking about a Slitheen story and a Dalek 2-parter. But next time we are talking about The Long Game, Father's Day, and The Empty Child and Dr. Dances. AKA the story that gave a load of teenagers and kids in the mid-2000s a shitload of nightmares. And the first contribution of a future showrunner to the main show, and his best one? I think it's his best one. I know it's your favourite story of this series, so let's see if that holds up. Introduction to Captain Jack next week. Father's Day, which is freaking exceptional, but we'll get to that.
Like heartbreaking.
Leave your comments down below. What do you think of Aliens in London, World War III, and Dalek? Do they make you Dalektably chuffed? Didn't work. I'm going to stop recording.